And we're going to backtrack a little bit on presentations because we have a student that got here from Aurora. Mr. Moreno, if you could go up to the podium and introduce the student.
Yes, honorable board and staff. We have a young man who's a student at Aurora High School. His biography was read, and he would like to become a firefighter. This is the young man that you would put your hands together for. Please welcome Angel Loza. We're going to get a picture. You come and shake hands. Congratulations. Okay. You take a picture with the board clerk. You'll get a free dress and an off-campus pants for lunch on Friday.
Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item letter E, Superintendent's Report. Ms. Ambriz.
Good evening, trustees. As you know, I send out a weekly newsletter to our school community, and the theme this month centers around courage. And no more, never has there been a time where the theme of courage has been exemplified as much in our nation's school as it was recently. As some of you are aware, or most of you may be aware, there has been another shooting tragedy that took place at Sparks, Nevada, at a Sparks, Nevada middle school. And one of the heroes in the recent tragedy was a classroom teacher who, in an effort to protect students, was fatally wounded. So more than ever, I ask that we all be vigilant, observant, and proactive in addressing the needs of troubled individuals so that these types of tragedies do not happen in our own community. I know we can't always prevent everything that happens, but the more we do, the greater our chances are of being protected from such types of incidents. Our collective condolences to the Sparks, Nevada community and to our nation as we continue to deal with such tragic events. And I really just cannot stress this enough because as I shared, I had the opportunity to be a keynote speaker this weekend for the Seroptimist workshop for young ladies in our community, in our Imperial Valley community. And one of the messages that I shared was, as they continue their education, whether it's middle school or high school or onward, that they take the bull by the horns in their lives and lead with courage, and that being courageous does not mean not being afraid. It's just knowing what to do with the fears that they encounter in life. And sometimes it's looking at our I don't want to call them insecurities, but our vulnerability, and knowing that we all have a place within us that's vulnerable, but we all have it within us to help someone else out. And if we can meet the needs of our troubled individuals, whether they are students, adults in our communities and at our schools, then more so we need to be proactive and observant with that so that we can avoid this. And our hearts go out to Sparks, Nevada, especially if anybody in our own community is directly or indirectly tied to anyone in Nevada. Going into a more positive light, we had a great homecoming week last week. I was able to watch some of the skits that took place earlier in the week, and then I was able to be a part of be a spectator at the homecoming game. And even though it was a loss on the scoreboard, the homecoming festivities are always a win in our community. We always have a great turnout, and the tremendous school spirit that the community of Calexico continues to show is just remarkable. And it's just something that gets played out and we hear about, whether it's on social media or whether it's in the people that we encounter throughout the valley. It's how great homecoming is in Calexico. And it really is about bringing people together. And that's one of the great things about our community. As you heard, our student reps, particularly from Enrique Camarena and from Willie Moreno, our 8th grade students were able to take part in a program held at 2 different places. One was held at Rodney Auditorium in the afternoon of Friday. I believe it was from 1 to 2:30 or so. And then the show at Southwest High School was in the morning at 9 o'clock. And they had the opportunity to hear a tremendous speaker. And she's been at our Calexico schools before. She was here last year through and it was an activity sponsored by ICOE. But Lieutenant Colonel Consuelo Castillo Kickbush, she is short in stature but great in any other way that you could see her. She is a tremendous speaker. She's a great motivator for all students, particularly minority students. And Lieutenant Castillo Kickbush at one point was the highest ranking female Latina in the United States military, and that's in all 4 branches combined. And so I had the opportunity to hear her speak about 15 or 16 years ago. Her message has just become that much stronger over the years. And even though I don't think her intention is to make people look at their vulnerabilities so they can see that the courage they have inside is there, but that's exactly what her audience does. And one of the things that I prepared our administrators for was that whoever witnesses her speak does not want to leave the room. And I think Mrs. Burgos was able to represent our office at the Rodney presentation, and she said, Maria, the kids were just lined up wanting to hug her, wanting to reach out to her, and her message was just as incredible or more than what you even prepared us for. And it's about, being out there, being courageous, but always knowing what your roots are, and knowing that each and every one of us matters in this world. So it was a powerful message that was delivered. And with that, I can share with you that I continue to visit the schools. I've dedicated the first 2 or so weeks of every month to just visiting the different school sites, and I'm very impressed with the efforts that I am seeing in each classroom that I visited. There's this incredible activity going on, instructional activity, not just on the parts of the teacher, though that's always a plus, but on how well the students are interacting with their teachers. And it's especially impressive when you see the alignment of that instructional activity and how it's tying into the Common Core that's being played out within the next few months and full force next year. I had the opportunity of visiting just about every single school in the last 2 weeks. I've had the opportunity to walk around with different administrators, and I walk in without a pen or pencil or notebook. It's just to go in, and I welcome the opportunity to mingle with the kids, and it's just great, and it was wonderful to see some of the kids, the elementary school kids, connecting with me at the football game. You're the one who came into our room, and you're the one that I read to, and it was just like, oh yes, do you remember my name? No, but you read to me, or I read to you, and I'm like, okay, well that's what was important. And it's just the fact that our kids are not shy, and they welcome the opportunity to interact, and that's always very impressive. And I want to say that one of the highlights, and I came and I shared it, with members of the cabinet, was some of the activity that I saw going on at Willie Moreno. I'm sorry, at Enrique Camarena. And when I walked into math classes at Willie Moreno, they were testing. So I had the opportunity to walk into a class at Enrique Camarena. It was a math class, and it was just amazing, the activity that the students were so anxious to be a part of. And that was being led by Mr. Enrique Cervantes, actually. He just had those kids, I want to say, eating out of his hand. They were really just very responsive to the CPM math curriculum, which has met with a lot of resistance, because it is different than how it was before, and it's not just your traditional math, but the kids in his classroom were just very responsive. So I just wanted to share that. And right now, I think that's all I'm going to share, and as things come up in the meeting, well, I'll share more. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. We have, you'll notice a new item on our agenda, letter F, association comments, and at this time we'll call up a rep from ACT. Is there anyone here? Mr. Chad Cooper, thank you.
It was a shame that more of us weren't in here to be able to celebrate our students. Even after the crowds left, I see a full boardroom. I think the board needs to pay attention to the fact that we might have to start holding these board meetings in a bigger room so that we can be inclusive. So I think that's good news, that more people are interested. Thank you for this opportunity to be acknowledged, and it's really an acknowledgement of the hard work that the teachers do on behalf of the school district. I'd like to remind the board that we have at least still 2 vacancies. Now, one of them they claim is being fingerprinted and whatnot, and I believe they, being HR, but to the students it's still a vacancy. It's at least a quarter of the way through their academic school year, and they haven't met their math teacher yet. And that's just really doing big harm to our students. So I'd like to remind you of that. And then we also have the band teacher or band consultant that's making the paltry sum of $800 a month and I just really don't think you can expect much loyalty when he could make minimum wage and leave us. So those are 2 situations. There may be more, but those 2 are the ones I know of. The other thing I'd like to do is I understand the district has put in some new payroll policies that have done nothing but get in the way of teachers being paid. I've got teachers that worked in August that still haven't been paid, and what they want is a paycheck, not a short oral history on how you get paid in this district. In reality, if teachers work and they submit a time card, they should expect to be paid soon. If not, we're really violating the trust that we or you, because sometimes I buy into that Calexico team or Calexico family philosophy. So really, school board, I looked into the ed code. I had one of the lawyers that we work with call Mr. Weiler, and the ed code isn't that strong at penalizing you for refusing to pay teachers. So I've got an appointment with Senator Wesso soon, so he can hopefully look into getting legislation that may provide better recourse for teachers that aren't paid. But the easier solution would be is to minimize the confusion between the 3 or 4 different signatures that need to be signed before we get paid for extra hours. So still a problem. I still have 3 or 4 teachers that worked in August that haven't been paid. The other thing is staff development. We had staff development today, and it was optional. And that's pretty scary that our Common Core training was optional. And I know as part of the bargaining agreement, it wasn't our idea to make it optional. So I'd like to know what the plan is for training those teachers who chose the option to not attend yesterday and today and in August and in January. There should be some plan in place that those teachers get those trainings, because I assume that the trainings were worthwhile. Otherwise, we wouldn't be spending thousands of dollars in our salary and in the trainer's salary. So I've got anecdotal evidence that it was 30 or more people chose not to come to work yesterday and today because, again, it was optional. Moving on, I see discussion, Calexico Unified School District grading policy. And that may have been there when Ms. Burgos sent me the agenda, but for whatever reason I didn't click on it. And there's no backup documents here for me to look at. So I'd like to remind you that we are in the state of California, and there's Education Code 49066 that reads the following. When grades are given for any course of instruction taught in a school district, the grade given to each pupil shall be the grade determined by the teacher of the course and the determination of the pupil's grade by the teacher. In the absence of clerical or mechanical mistake, fraud, bad faith, or incompetency shall be final. So the state law says that the final grade belongs to the teacher. So I'm sure your superintendent will remind you of that, and I don't know the roots of this discussion. I can tell you that there's a team of ACT representatives that are working on a proposal for a grading policy at Calexico High School, and when that comes to its finality, we'll be calling a meeting with the district's officials. But and I won't discuss those issues here because those are being dealt with at the site level, and I do expect there to be positive progress. But teachers' grade books belong to the teacher, so please keep that in mind as you get to agenda item G. And maybe I'll quote our fearless leader Maria that if I think of other Maria Ambrose, that if I think of other comments, I'll be back later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We have CSEA on the agenda, and if someone is here from CSEA that would like to comment. Nope. Okay. Okay. Ms. Humphries?
I have one more thing to add, Mr. Cooper. Thanks for reminding me. I do have two things to say, and I want to apologize for being remiss about it. The first one is to acknowledge the beautiful display of work in the back. As you know, the front was at our last board meeting from Calexico High School's art class with Mrs. Dreesen. And I believe the back artwork, as far as the newspaper formats, come from Mr. Nolasco's class. I think that's either 5th or 6th grade at Blanche Charles. 5th grade, yes. 5th grade at Blanche Charles. And an attitude of gratitude, I believe, also comes from Blanche Charles, but I'm not sure who's responsible for that wonderful work. Ms. Uribe, 3rd grade. So whenever you get a chance to kind of walk the walls, you can see the wonderful work product that our students are putting out at our elementary school. One of the other things that I've been extremely remiss about is to inform our board of a couple of issues that came up today, as a matter of fact, regarding our band. Our band director requested to take our students to a trip this Saturday to Mount Carmel. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Mount Carmel, and next week to a music festival in La Mesa, I believe. The issue with this that has arisen is that no one from the school site requested to put that item on the agenda for board approval prior to today. The paperwork is being submitted today, as a matter of fact. And so because the board has insisted that we try to stay true to the timelines in terms of submitting paperwork and requesting out-of-county trip permissions, I initially have advised the principal that I would not be allowing the trip. Obviously, after giving it further thought and knowing that it affects the students in the classroom and their display of their musical talents, I am inclined to use some superintendent prerogative and allow the trip, and just let you know that this will be presented at a future board meeting for retroactive approval, so that the students are not hindered in terms of performance, or because someone administratively dropped the ball on that issue. However, this matter has been brought up with the school site's principal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ambriz. Okay. We're going to move on to comments from the public. The first comment is, the first card comes from Mr. Morris Risen. Mr. Morris Risen had to leave, and he asked us to, in his absence, so it's a little out of the norm, to present this. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. This is actually from Mr. Eric Ortega's wife, who is also not here today, but wanted to present you with a plaque, and I am going to read it out loud. Felicidades al nuevo miembro de la mesa directiva escolar, Eric Ortega, por tu dedicación y esfuerzo para lograr lo que te propones. Estamos muy orgullosos de ti y deseamos que esto sea el primer de muchos éxitos, más con todo nuestro amor, tu esposa e hijos. And there's a quote on the bottom that says, la perseverancia es la clave del éxito. So, Mr. Ortega, to you, from your wife and Mr. Morris Risen, who are not here. Congratulations. And moving on, we have Mr. Todd Fennell.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Ambriz. My name's Todd Fennell, and I'm here tonight just to introduce myself and really just to let you know of my intent to file as a candidate for County Superintendent of Schools in June. I look forward to working with you to ensure that the County Office of Education stays sensitive and responsive to your district needs. I would welcome an opportunity anytime to meet with you to understand your concerns, your issues, so that I can make sure that the county office, both the role of the superintendent as well as the County Office of Education, stays focused on supporting the needs of your district and the greater community. So with that, thank you for allowing me to do this.
Thank you. And congratulations on your candidacy. Mr. Raul Ureña. This is 3. Not before.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Raul Ureña. I'm a junior here at Calexico High School. And it pains me every time I have to say this, but priorities are being misplaced. I understand that we are not the richest school district and that we have a huge amount of students that need to be served, but this does not change the fact that the little resources we have are being misallocated. As a private math tutor, I see the results of these policies firsthand. I have tutored many clients in different levels of math, and all of these students from Calexico Unified School District. And I've always encountered that same problem. None of my clients have behavioral issues, none of my clients have learning issues, but they are lacking attention. These kids are extremely smart, and once I'm able to address the questions that they have on a one-on-one conversation, they're able to do the homework with ease. Sadly, this doesn't happen at Calexico schools. Calexico students lack essential one-on-one instructions due to our degrading student-to-teacher ratio of 34-1. And of course, that statistic comes from my own experience as opposed to the school district's faulty averages that would claim that there are far less students in my class. Knowing this board has gone out of its way to make the problem worse by eliminating essential programs such as KIA in eligible elementary schools, or shooting for a minimum of required class size. Students are not only being crammed into classrooms like sardines, but we are also being fed a load of microwavable crap that hardly anyone eats, unless there isn't any other options. And I know that you know this because we've had food tastings where our board president herself was present and agreed with us that something had to be done, yet nothing has even been proposed for that matter. And the facts that these problems exist do not irritate me. What irritates me is that there are blatant problems that are acknowledged by everyone, and no one displays any intention for making drastic changes. We present a political facade, And then we do the same thing that we've been doing all of this time and expect different results. And guess what? Doing the same thing leads to the same results. And it hurts me to come up here to beg that hopefully our board will consider not spending money on expensive fences or lavish administrative salaries and workplaces, or to spend $450,000 on an architect whose plans we don't even know if they're going to make it to the construction site, and instead direct those resources directly to the classrooms. With that, I ask this board in the most polite of terms to look at how you are managing your resources. I ask that you take a more sensible, bottom-up approach by listening to your students' needs, to listen to Mr. Cooper and all of his complaints to ensure that teachers have a comfortable workplace, and to base your goals on the people who work on the front lines, for it is your students, your teachers, your parents who are best suited to know what we need at our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ureña. We have Ms. Diana Harvey representing ACT. Oh, you're okay, you're right. Right, that's it for public comments. We move on to a discussion. We have Calexico Unified School District grading policy, and I don't know whose agenda item that is.
This agenda item was requested by one of our trustees. I believe it was Trustee Duarte, and I think she just wants information in terms of what our specific grading policies are, and et cetera, and what the processes are for review.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had called Ms. Burgos that I wanted this on the agenda because I wanted to have a conversation with the board. As you know, we now have the Common Core academics, and I don't know if the grading policy that we have matches with our Common Core. That is my only concern. I'm not changing any way teachers make the determination on scoring students and stuff like that. But I want to make sure that we have dialogue. There is a policy endorsed by the board, so I want to make sure that now that we're moving forward with something else that is different, if the way the grading, the way the homework policy, everything, because now it's in a group status, it's not an individual. And when I've been to areas where the kids are studying in a group, what happens when the other child, if there's four kids in a group, what happens when there's a child not participating but yet getting the same grade overall like everybody else? I don't know how that is done and stuff like that. But I want to make sure that the policies that we have in place are the same with our teaching practices that we have. That's it. Mr. Cooper said that teachers are going to bring in a proposal. I would think that the proposal is because of the new teaching. I don't know. I don't know what the proposal is going to be. But I remember before I was a board member, when my oldest came into the high school and back to school, they gave us the grading policy, and 50% of the test. I mean, a test for the week would be 50% of their grade or something like that. And are those things still applying with Common Core? So that's the only reason why I wanted to put it up there, because I wanted to open dialogue to you guys, because all I see at our board, if you can look back to July, all we approve is trainings and professional development. Well, how is that effect going to the students? How is it affecting the students? So that is the type of dialogue that I want to have here. I just don't want to approve training after training after training, not knowing what the end result of a student is. Because if there's policies that we need to change, we need to address them.
What kind of policies are you talking about? As far as I'm concerned, because as far as I'm concerned, teachers set their own grading policies as far as what is it that they they give 50% to 20% to that's the teacher. With the only things that we are in charge of, or that the schools will be in charge of, would be their grades to put on the on report cards. Other than that, the teachers pretty much run over their own way of grading. So, Janet, is there something? She said, is there something that we have? Or did she
Well,
say?
why,
Is there
why
something?
would she? No, yeah.
Okay.
From something. I mean, I'm not talking about the A, B, C, D grade. I'm talking a policy, a grading policy in total. Is there something like that? Because I can tell you that if everybody teaches, I mean, I don't know, I don't understand this part, what you just said, that every teacher grades their students. How are they grading? Is there a rubric? Is there something in place that says that the child must do this, this, and this in order to gain this? Or is the teacher saying, I'm going to give you this, this, and I'm going to give you this, this? I don't know.
Okay, what Mr. Cooper shared with you in terms of ed code, et cetera, being that reflect that teachers have the final say, so they control their grade books, that is correct. Now,
and I understand
when
that.
it comes to how a grade, how students are graded in the classroom, a teacher will, at the beginning of the semester, develop his syllabus and outline his or her grading policies in that syllabus. In that syllabus, they'll tell you generally what, or specifically, what constitutes a grade. 40% is testing, 20% is homework, or whatever the percentage may be. So every teacher has that outlined in their syllabus at the beginning of the semester. And generally, they will also, in that syllabus, include a description of the types of activities that they will be engaging in throughout the semester, whether it's going to be group testing, individual testing, et cetera. And so those are usually spelled out or defined in their class syllabus. And what I'm hearing you say, though, and I'm hoping I'm hearing that correctly, is that you just want to make sure that as we move into the Common Core being the way of doing business, that the grading practices reflect the students' work within that Common Core practice. And that is obviously a conversation that we will have to have with our association and then individual teachers to make sure that that's what is, that they mesh together and they translate.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
That they correlate more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah, because I don't want to hear that, like with the No Child Left Behind, we left the children behind because of the laws that were put into effect and how they were supposed to teach. Well, we're doing something different, which to me is back to basics, back to thinking. So how does it reflect if they're going to work in a group? How are those grades going to be distributed? Because you don't want a partner-based studying and then a child not participating.
One partner carrying the other.
Yeah,
so to speak.
That's
I have
the reason why I was
I have
putting
encountered
it on there.
I have encountered that problem, and they have come to me regarding that. I mean, not here, but where I work, and that's basically up to the teacher to decide. Well, if Juanito wasn't here on this day, well, then Juanito is going to get less than what the rest of the group received. So if the group receive a B, then Juanito is going to receive a C. That's up to the teacher. However, most of the time is like if you were to talk to a parent, if a parent came to talk to a teacher, well, something will be done. But as far as having a policy regarding that, once again, I think it is up to the teacher.
Well,
and
I
as a
mean-
as a parent, I do have the right, not as a counselor or not as a board member, but as a parent, if that happened to my child, I will be talking to that teacher right away, because yes, if my kid went and did all the work and put in the 5 hours of every night and then somebody else didn't do anything and is going to get the same grade, or because of that kid, my child is going to receive a lesser grade. Well, of course I'm gonna be talking to the teacher.
Yeah, it dawned on me because I was looking at the board policies, and there is board policy, the 6,000s and the 5,000s that have student instruction and have stuff like that. So that's the reason why I had brought it up. It's not necessarily I don't want to tell the teachers how to grade their students.
Just want to understand.
But and another thing is that everybody be consistent in how they grade. That's, But I have a room full of teachers, yeah, I know.
We received a couple requests to speak, and just for the record, public comment was selected, and we are past public comment, but I'm assuming Mr. Ureña and Ms. Torres, you would like to speak on the discussion item. Okay, so just want to point out that it is a different item. So we'll start with Mr. Ureña. It's just in order and how we received them.
All right then. All right, I just wanted to weigh in very quickly on this issue because, of course, I'm the one being affected by all this. So I wanted to say that I understand Ms. Duarte's sentiments, but ultimately it boils down to this. It's a non-issue. The teachers have their own mechanism within the classroom to prevent this sort of unequal distribution of work. For example, if I'm in a group in my class and I see that one of my peers isn't working within the group and leaving the work up to the others, I'm able to go to the teacher and explain what's going on, and she will penalize that student. And so there is mechanisms in place. And with regards to the grading policy itself, as how points are distributed between tests and homeworks and whatnot, the things are changing. It's no longer 60% test. Now it's reduced to 30, even less, and we're having a lot less focus on tests, a lot less testings, more group activities. We're having more group work, more individual work, and ultimately the test just comes down. The test is just there to see whether you've been working within the group, as a form of individualized testing. So really, there is nothing to worry about with this issue. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Ureña. Ms. Veronica Torres.
Good evening. Going back to your concern, I think one of the biggest concerns is to look at how grades are reflected in the report card, because now we're not going to be able to use the old kind of report card. We have to come up with the Common Core type of report card. And yes, just like Mr. Ureña said, teachers use their judgment, and they're very well aware of students who do participate, don't participate. The content is going to be different, but the grading policy doesn't change. The content, what you're grading, will be different. And, there's more in depth. The teachers are going to have, like you said, we're going to trainings. Now we need time to step back and create rubrics, create grading criteria. The benchmarks that we've been using are not going to be applicable anymore. So all those are items for discussion. But I think the report card is the one that's going to be, will have to change. And how are we going to do it? This is a year of exploration. And I understand parents have to trust the professionalism and the knowledge that the teachers bring to the table. And at least personally, I can tell you we're working hard to do the right thing for students, and we're excited for this new curriculum. But everything it's a process, and it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of hours. And with your support and training, we really need that. But we also need time to discuss, how we're going to develop new assessments, how to include the Common Core, the communication piece, the cooperation, collaboration, all those pieces together to make it meaningful for the students and the teachers and parents. So I think, really, it's not, it shouldn't be something that parents should be afraid of. It's something we've been doing all the time. The percentage that we give this or that, teachers are well aware. It's going to be the same. But the content that we expect, the depth of learning, that's what we're going to be looking at in terms of how we grade. It's not so much the percentage, it's how we grade. What is it that we're looking for? So I think we're in a good place. So.
Thank you, Ms. Soto.
Thank you for that clarification, and I do hear that there is need of change in some aspects. So, and that's what I wanted to know, if we were moving forward with that too. And apparently they are.
Maria, question real quick. She mentioned something about report cards changing. What is she referring to?
Well, because when we look at the global picture of going from our report cards reflecting the standards as they were related to the California standards prior, and now as we're going through Common Core standards, they will have to reflect a different way, a different setup. And because our report cards, if I'm not mistaken, at the elementary level, are based on basically the CST concepts that our students have had to master over the past several years. And so now that means that we're going to have to rework or refine our report card to correlate to the Common Core standards that our teachers are imparting to our students, and that our students are hopefully addressing and,
Okay, you're
and
talking
mastering.
about elementary. I'm sorry, I'm high school, so I only see four grades. So, okay, sorry. So in elementary, yes, you have this whole page.
The elementary
Okay.
report
Yeah,
cards,
okay,
yes.
so, okay.
Is that all?
That clarifies that there needs to be changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, parents call us and they say, my kid is doing this and this and this, and, if we don't know how to answer that question, So now I know that I can tell them it's your teacher that grades them, not the board. Basically, that is.
All right, thank you. We'll move on. We've, letter I on our agenda, consent agenda. We need a motion on the consent agenda. Are there any items that anybody would like to pull?
Want to pull something?
I would like to pull I-4.
I-4,
I would look to put I-2.
2. Is that all? Okay, can we get a motion to approve consent agenda minus items 2 and 4?
Make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Duarte, can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Calderon, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 2, accounts payable pre-list.
Okay, I just have one question, and maybe maybe it's obvious. It would be on page. Okay, let me open it up. It will be on page 3 of 15 under California Consulting. You have a $20,000 fee that we're paying for consulting services for June, July, August, September, October. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 4. Okay. We had agreed to $4,000 a month or something. Is that what we had agreed?
Yes, I have a copy of the agreement here with me, and we agreed the board agreed as a board to do a monthly flat rate option, and that is $4,000 a month.
Okay. And is that how they do business? They bill quarterly, or, I mean, the amount is the same, $4,000, but is that how they do business?
No, under the recitals of the contract, it does specify that they should be invoicing us on a monthly basis. However, they were they delayed their invoice, their billing, so now they decided to bill all in one.
Well, then you need to talk to them about that, because if they agree to do something and now they're doing it in a different way.
Yes, we have started conversations, both the projects department and the businesses department, not only as to the billing, but also in working with them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it? No more
That's
questions?
for me. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there
Any
anything
other
else
board
on the
member?
pre-list? If nothing else, can we get a motion to approve the pre-list?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Calderon, can we get a second? Second, Mr. Ortega. All in favor of approving item number 2, the pre-list?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 4, Calexico Unified School District Employer Agreement with NSAPN, the National Substance Abuse Professional Network. Ms. Duarte?
I'm happy to see something that is in concrete in regards to this item. The only thing is that, the question that I have is, are we going to give the option on the CUSD, hold on, I'm already there, under the CUSD form, for the Section 6 program cost options? One is the district pays, I guess, up front, and then option number 2, the employee pays up front. I myself, because the employee would be on paid status, that they pay up front, no option, since there's no loss of pay at that time that they would do this drug prevention program or whatever, that they pay up front with option 2, because they're the reason why they're going through this drug rehab or whatever they failed for as the DOT. If we pay up front, we may never recover that money unless we tell them you can't come back to work until you pay the district the $550 fee. Or do we have to give them a choice?
If for any reason the employee is experiencing any type of financial hardship, the only thing that we would recommend at that time is paying it and then have that deducted from their pay.
How would they have a financial hardship when they're on paid status?
I know, I'm just stating if for whatever, because I don't know if somebody is having financial difficulties at home. I mean, so at this point is if there is an inability to pay for any reason, and so that could be one option. But our main option is to have the employee pay for that test through the SAP program. I believe that's what it's called, through the SAP program. The reality is if they get to the SAP program is because they failed one of the required tests to maintain their driving privileges through the Department of Transportation. And so that would be the only thing. But our recommendation is that the employee pays for the fee. And if there's an extenuating circumstance that would prohibit that employee from paying it,
If they're terminated?
Then we would have to go after the wages by garnishment from their paycheck. That's all I can say at this time. But our intent is for them to pay up front.
I was just looking at this, and I'm like, well, why would the district pay in advance? What is the penalty for the employee? And I don't have any other questions. I just have that question because I saw the option on it.
With that said, we need can we get a motion on item number
May I ask
4?
a question?
Yes.
Ms. Ambriz, you mentioned in the event that the district pays for the program and they get terminated, you would move to, or the district would move to garnish their pay for whatever fee is pending. I take caution on that because, and I'm applying the labor code to private industry, that whenever you garnish the wages of an employee, they have to consent, even though, you know, they agreed to the program or to a loan. If they didn't consent to have it, you know, garnished from their check, that's a major violation, which with various assessed penalties by the labor board. I don't know if it applies in this instance, but I imagine it would. So just to point that out.
I think that before we did that, we would definitely consult that with our legal counsel.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion on this item?
Mr. Weiler, do we have to have an option on this contract, or can we just say that the employee will pay?
I'm really not that familiar with this contract.
So you haven't seen it?
I have not reviewed it, no.
Can we? Well, no, not table it. I'm okay. I read it all, but when contracts like this, we're gonna approve. Can you just get counsel first to see what is in the best interest of the district as to, I mean, I read it and it's all DOT and everything. The only thing is the option that I was like, well, we give the employee the option and they don't pass the test and they get terminated, we're gonna have to go through the motion of court or whatever to get our money back, because I can guarantee you at that point, the employee's not gonna pay back.
If indeed that happens, I'm sure I'll be consulted.
Yeah, but I mean, I would have liked for you to have read this before we approve something like this, because when it comes out to legal, you know, I always have my attorney check everything.
Then maybe you should.
I mean, I believe that HR would tell them, we're going with option one, you have to pay for, I mean, going, yeah, where the employee pays it in advance.
Any further discussion?
I call for the question.
We need a motion.
And make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to
Of the
approve by
agreement.
Ms. Duarte
A second?
and a second by Mr. Ortega. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Let's hope that we don't get to that point.
That is all for
That's-
under
that's
consent
true.
agenda. We're going to move on to superintendent recommendations. Ms. Ambriz.
Okay. The first one is the authorization to seek the RFPs for the telecommunication services. And this has got to do with all of our internal connections with regards to internet, et cetera. And so this would be with Mr. McFadden? No? Okay. So if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions?
So this is for the whole. So is it just for the district office or for the whole?
No,
district?
for this point, in terms of what the board will be taking action on tonight, we're in the process of submitting an application for the E-rate. And part of the bid process includes the readiness or preparation to be able to contract out for certain services. Within a district, we have a number of services, both that are housed here at the district office, but basically services are being received at the different school sites that we have. So this just allows us, when the time comes, to be able to submit for the maintenance of the servers, for the connections, everything that we have associated that supports the infrastructure that supports our technology.
So what do we have right now, Mr. McFadden? I mean, we have something similar to that now, or this is going to be something new?
Yes, no, we have something. This is part of the, for the RFPs, it's proposals that we have basically on an annual basis. And as we get ready to resubmit for the E-rate application, we just update those type of agreements. So part of the process with the E-rate is determine the needs we had from a technology standpoint, and to identify, those type of supports and services that we will need to continue to function. Partly within the school district, we understand that we need phones, we need, communication components. So part of the RFP that we would be taking a look at would be able to support that. The computers that we use at the school sites need to be supported from servers and other hardware here. And again, from the E-rate, those are elements that we would submit as part of the proposal to be able to do a couple things. Hopefully to maintain the integrity of the computer systems, or just basically the technology that we have within the district. And so the maintenance, as we go every year, we submit and try to get as much money recouped as part of the E-rate. Again, the E-rate will pick up 90% of the costs that are associated with it. The district picks up approximately 10%. And so this just allows us, when the time is ready, as we go through the process, to be able to certainly, we as individuals will not be selecting certain vendors. Those vendors will be coming to you for the authorization. But at least what that does, it allows us to set the parameters of the contract. There's a scope of work that we're asking for. The vendors then will be able to submit the bids on our behalf. So this just allows us, because the E-rate, it's a relatively quick turnaround time in terms of writing, submitting applications, getting approval, and then for the implementation.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing is getting RFPs in order to fulfill the grant process
Correct.
for the E-rate.
Correct.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Ms. Duarte on this item.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ortega. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, the next item, number 2, Jimmy Sanders Architect Agreement for Calexico High School Pool, and we have a comment by Ms. Diana Harvey.
Okay, ready, set, go. On my time. I have 2 windows open on my iPad. One is referring to the estimate that Mr. Sanders wrote up on June 1st. My name's Diana Harvey, by the way, for the cost of the pool project. And in his estimate, he lists architect and engineering, $426,000. And I assume that's 2 people, two vendors, architect and engineering. And then I'm going to open up my other window that's to tonight, his contract, and it says he will secure for you a list of engineers as part of his duties and do all the other things that he has to do to see the project through, and his fee will be $452,000. So my big question is, well, first of all, do we need to get a bid? I don't know. But the question is, before, when we saw the project presented in June, it was architect and engineers for $426,000. And now tonight it's just his fee, and he will get you a list of engineers for $452,000. So I have a big, a big question here. I'd like to see the pool estimate revised with how much the engineers will cost and how much the architect will cost, because apparently that's a new expense that wasn't listed on the estimate. And then, so tonight, his fee is, well, the way he listed in his contract is 5% of this, 8% of that, 10%. But on your document, your backup document, it's lists his total estimate fee, $452,000. You know, that's a lot of money. That's a big difference, and I think it should be looked into and this item tabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Do we have any discussion from the board on this comment, on this item?
Mr. Martinez, maybe Mr. Martinez should come up.
Huh?
Mr. Martinez, maybe he should come up, maybe he knows the answer to that.
Okay, I'm going to have Mr. Martinez come up just in case he has more more answers to any questions. One of the things that has come forth is that Mr. Sanders has been working for our district for the last year and a half, or ever since they started this process of demolishing and reconstructing our pool. And there is an invoice that has come in, and in order for that to be paid, obviously there has to be a contract in place. One of the things that I asked our staff to do was to find a copy of that contract. No such contract was found in our records. And I also had a conversation with our former superintendent, because I did ask Mr. Sanders if he had a copy of the contract. And he did. He submitted what is being presented here tonight. And so I know that I had a conversation with our former superintendent, because Mr. Sanders indicated that he had submitted that contract to him back, I believe, in 2012. And that somehow it never made it to a board agenda. And so based on that information, I did have that conversation with our former superintendent, and he did indicate to me that he was aware that a contract was being developed because Mr. Sanders was doing the work, but that he had no recollection of being handed the contract. And so in essence, though, there is an amount of work that has been done, and there is an invoice, I believe, over $200,000 at this point, and which, in order to get that portion paid, we would need to approve a contract. Now, I've asked Mr. Fergali, our former superintendent, well, absent of a contract, why was the work done? And so his comment was that, you know, that at the time, Mr. Sanders did provide assistance to the district, and he agreed to defer or delay his billing until such a time that the pool project was sent to the Department of State Architect, which it has at this time. And so based on that, he has done the work up until now, and that is why he's requesting payment. And that is what I received in my conversation, the information I received in my conversation with our former superintendent.
Mr. Martinez, has that price changed from the price sheet that he had given us, the broken down price sheet of the whole cost of the swimming pool? Did it change?
Well,
because I remember it's always been 400, but
so just for clarification, it's all based on an estimate, and it's all based at the end of the day in regards to what the final bid will come up to. So the number he gave us in regards to the invoice was an estimated cost of a total cost of $452,960 for the total cost. That's only an estimate. As you recall, let's go just to the portion of the demolition. We were anticipating 230,000 and it came out to 77,000. And mind you that one of the other bids was 236,000, very similar to what was estimated. So there was a savings there. If you were to use just that portion of that one part of work, obviously his costs would go down significantly, and it's based on the contract portion as listed on the agreement that he has. So it's all based on an estimate. And at this point, he submitted an invoice for over $200,000. I'm not sure the total amount. And when an architect is hired, the engineers come with him. He's the one that's responsible for all the engineers with him. So the money that he is billing us for right now is also to pay off the engineers that were also involved, which were mechanical, electrical, and so forth. He'll be paying them off. It's not just
It's
this
not
money
his
for the
money.
architect, correct?
Mr. Martinez, when you said when an architect is hired, and at this point, it seems like there was no contract that was signed, so what exactly does that mean, that when an architect is hired and we're gonna pay towards something?
I was speaking in general as far as when they're when they're charging their fees or billing the district and so forth. In this case, you're absolutely right. There's no set agreement. This is something that happened some time ago, and obviously you had a pool committee that also everybody was aware of what was going on, and the direction was given to this one architect. When the billing came in, as Ms. Ambris was saying, the bill came to me. I brought it to the district office, and that's when we found out, there's no such agreement. This is where we put it here and said, we need to bring this up to the board and go from here.
But also when the poll came about, the board gave direction to the superintendent, and at that point it was Dr. Fagali, to move forward with the swimming pool. So at that point, it came reality as to a contract. It has not come in front of the board for approval. But we moved forward with it, and that's when we started talking with the city and everything else. Actually, this price is going to be shared with the city's finances also. So it's not all on us. The contract is with us because he is the architect for the school district, but the share of cost for the swimming pool is part the city's and part us. So at the end of the day, the cost will be paid by both parties.
And where is that written, that we're sharing the cost? Because I don't know that there is an actual joint powers agreement with the city.
No,
I don't know that
and
we have.
And it's being drafted as we speak. There is going to be a meeting next week with the city in order to get the funding. I don't know if the city's, I don't know if Mr. Weiler is the one in charge of that. No? Okay. Somebody from the architect. But things are moving, and they will be, there will, it's not going to be a joint power of attorney, joint powers. It's going to be an MOU. But the papers are being drafted, and our attorneys will look at it, city's attorneys will look at it and finalize it.
I just feel like, I guess the majority, and I don't know if I'm speaking, Mr. Ortega, Mr. Calderon, of this board is unaware of these things happening. Yet we have before us a bill, we have before us a contract that's late in coming, and we have work that's being done. There's an MOU, there's not an MOU, there's a JPA, there's not a JPA, and we're, I think, basing a lot of these things on assumptions that the city is going to pick up some of the costs. We don't know how much of the cost. The pool was going to be $4 million, now it's going to be $7 million. I just think this is this is something that this district cannot incur in terms of the cost, in terms of the way this project is being laid out. Things are happening in reverse. This is my opinion, Ms. Duarte, and I don't see, in my opinion, a clear connection of how this started and how this is progressing. I hear different amounts. I've heard 4 million, I've heard 7 million. I've never had the city come up here and say, we are gonna pick up the tab on this. We hear a lot of these things. We don't have anything has ever come before us in terms of anything formal. This contract is not formal because it's coming in after the fact. There's been conversations that a board gave direction to a superintendent and there was no contract. I can't support it. I cannot, and I say this here in front of you all, I can't support this project. I don't think this district can afford it. I think we have a high school that's falling apart. And if we're gonna have a $7 million pool, I don't know if we're gonna hold classes in that $7 million pool, and what we're gonna do when we can't get these kids into classrooms that are adequate, if we can't get in more teachers, if we can't reduce our class sizes. I can't support it. I mean, you guys can continue with this item without my support. I just can't.
I just don't like the fact that, just like Ms. Vizcarra said, I don't like the fact that we are basing, or they're asking us to base our decision on nothing. Because there's nothing, there's no paperwork, there's no contracts. So they're just asking us to trust them. And I'm not a trusting person when it comes to that. So, I mean, and once again, I hear different amounts. Now, the fact that in their contracts, they have a little provision that says we may change our rates 10% or something like that. Well, they always do. They always go the 10% up. Why, I don't know, but I just don't like that. I just don't like, to me, it looks fishy. Okay, where's that paperwork? Where's our contract? Okay, why? I don't remember. I mean, I remember going over this, but where's the paperwork? I just don't trust. In this matter, I just don't trust that if I support it, I don't trust that it will be in the best interest of the whole community. So unfortunately, that's the way that I feel.
Do we not have and I don't know for you or for Ms. Ambriz, a master plan facility that we just, a master plan, right, of facilities that we just approved? And I don't know why we can't, why this board wouldn't want to sort of halt this process and look at what we need as a district, where we need what we need our high school to look at in terms of where instruction takes place. I think the community would love a pool, but I think our high school, which is really that last sort of pathway that our kids have before they enter adulthood and they leave here, should be a master plan like we've never seen before, and I don't know how we're putting a pool before that. And that's been put out to RFP, correct? To get, I'm sorry, we already approved it. So, I mean, I'm really of the mind right now to wait for that plan to come to fruition so that we can see where we move forward from that. I don't think this district, I think it would be a gross irresponsibility to approve what we have in front of us and to look at this pool in that amount of money.
And if I may add, I came on board as far as on this pool committee just maybe a couple months ago. Since then, I've tried my best to do whatever the district's intent or direction it was headed at that point. Since then, I brought to the board everything that's come up as far as the abatements, the demolitions, everything that's been going. I've been being as transparent as I can. It is the board's discretion to go any direction they want, obviously. And we'll go that route. I just want to make sure that it's clear here that whatever direction the district wants to go, obviously the superintendent and everybody will fully support it. But for clarification here, I'm not sure where the misunderstanding was in regards to this. I found that this document was missing, and that's why we're bringing it up to you as far as for direction on it. And whatever direction you want to go, if it's not the pool and if it's the Calexico High School, we'll be going that direction. That's not a problem. But for-
Mr. Martinez, and I think you do a great job. I mean, really, my hat's off to you. And this does, my comments do not speak on your integrity and the hard work that you do at all. My comments stem from just from a different place, really, notwithstanding and your integrity and the hard work you do. So I want to clarify that. Ms. Duarte, you had a comment.
I'm just baffled because this item has come in front of the past board and in front of this board before, and the approvals have always been in favor of it. So now that we have a contract here, we halt. I don't know if that's the right way to do business. The demolition started last week. We know that there's a demolition on the swimming pool and everything, so we know that the swimming pool exists. It's not there yet, but we've always been talking about it, and it surprises me now that because we have this contract in front of us, this price has never been anything new to us. And I'm speaking to us as to myself, Norman Superintendent, Mr. Martinez, and the city representatives, Mr. Bill Hodge, Ms. Maritza Hurtado, and Mr. Oscar Rodriguez. But this board has discussed the swimming pool, and it has been moving forward, and that's why now we have this in front, because we have to have a contract in order to pay it. Again, it's another oversight. We had an oversight earlier this evening in regards to transporting the band students and stuff like that. These things happen, but the fruition of the swimming pool, it's moving along. So to say we're going to stop now and halt until we get a 5-year plan for the high school. We had the funding for the pool because of the earthquake.
We don't have all of the funding.
No, we
for
don't.
the pool.
We don't. We don't have all the funding at this point. But the movements have been going, and I don't know. I mean, Ms. Aguilar is not here, but if you guys want to table the assignment to where the other board member is here to say what she knows also, we can table the item, but to put a halt to this is not the right thing to do.
No, you're saying, Ms. Duarte, you're saying that the city doesn't even want to. They didn't even want to go forward with the mall. They wanted to put a halt to that.
Well,
so
when you're talking about distinguished board council
well,
members,
it doesn't matter. What I'm afraid is at this point, what I'm afraid is that they're gonna back down, and then we're gonna be left with the bill. Of course, they want to use. They're gonna want to use the pool, and that's fine because the city has always used our pool, and that's fine. But if they're gonna use the pool, they need to commit.
there is already money committed from the city.
Believe me, they will find a way. I haven't seen anybody, any of those people here talking to us, at least recently. So I do agree with you that we need to. I mean, the work has been done. Yes, they demolished. They already started. So nothing we can do about that because I'm not gonna pay them to rebuild back what they demolished. But I will be more in favor right now of tabling this issue until Ms. Aguilar is here, and maybe invite some of the city council members to come and agree with us. They are with us in this issue. The way that things are going on right now, like I said, I'm not trusting anybody at this point. So, I guess at this point I will move to table this item until all the 5 board members are here, so we can discuss this item fully.
So what do we do with the presentation?
And before we move forward,
The
we do have a
presentation that
couple of comments from folks on this item. We'll call on,
I'm going to motion to table this item. I will retract my motion so we can hear the comments.
thank you, Mr. Calderon. We have Mr. Chad Cooper.
I was at a meeting with some people planning an event in December, and Bill Hodge, mayor, was there. And the pool was just an informal side conversation. And according to Mr. Hodge, the $1 million payment has not been made to the district. And he had committee notes from meetings that took place that were never noticed to the public. So I guess to be laser focused in respect to everyone's time here, in the future when a standing committee of the school board meets, especially when there's city council members, our staff members there, et cetera, I believe the meeting needs to take place in open session. I could understand negotiating could be a closed session item, but even if all we had was a public meeting noticed so you could go to closed session, we could at least timeline this. Because I'll save a lot of my sarcasm, but when I bring a deal from Mr. Fergali, I'm told no by the superintendent. And those are our loyal employees, not Jimmy Sanders' architect. So in the future, I would really like the pool committee meetings to be public meetings, and I would encourage the school board not to attend official meetings on behalf of the district unless they are noticed committee meetings. And I've also looked through the minutes to find out when the pool committee was officially formed. I haven't been able to find that yet. And I've been working with Mayor Hodge, and he's on catch-up right now on the deal also. And I've got another meeting set for next week where I'm going to track down rumors on if there's a federal or state earmark available for this in our future. Why? Because this is all money that belongs to our students in Calexico, and us teachers serve the students. So this is of paramount interest to me because we can't have a pool unless we still have a school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Horton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Ben Horton. I sit on I'm the chairman of the Economic Commission for the City of Calexico. I have been tasked with a fact-finding from the mayor, who is Bill Hodge, and I'm supposed to put together a report both for the school district and for the City of Calexico in reference to this pool. And it was just a surprise to me that it came up today because I was just coming to the school board meeting. I didn't plan on speaking. But the mayor is tasking to find out where we're at on the pool, what monies have been allocated, if any. And I'm supposed to put together a report for both the school district and the city. And that's where we're at on this part. Your next meeting, I will have a report for you, and also the next meeting for the city council to let you know where we're at. I have attended some of the meetings along with your trustee, Ruth Doherty. And we have had discussions. I have taken some notes myself, but I will put that together because you have a right to know where you're at and what's going on in reference to this pool. Like everything, ladies and gentlemen, there are sometimes we have oversight, but the intention is not to do it perfectly, but it's just an oversight. Now we're going to put everything in order. You'll know where we're at. And I remember when they built that pool that's out there right now, it took the community to come together to put this together. And we may have to look at having a community to come together again in order to put something together in reference to the pool. We're not trying to deprive our students or teachers from anything that's owed them or deserved them. And I believe in trust, but trust with verification. And that's what I'm going to leave this to right now. But you will have a report at your next school board meeting, and also the city is having a meeting next week, and we'll be moving forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. We have Ms. Adele Holloway.
Hi, I'm Adele Holloway. I attend SDSU IVC. I graduated from Calexico High School last year, and I remember when I was a little girl and I would always go. I would to the pool, and it was like swim team, and it was fun. And just to think like how Miss Duarte says, like it's not like a big like it's already in motion, or how they're already doing the demolishing. You can say that I really don't even know what you guys are talking about business-wise, because I don't know those type of things, the legalities, but I didn't know that you could start a project without having something formally written. And it's sad to say that, or to hear that there's not even a set amount of money going into this. And you might say like, oh yeah, well it's just from 4 million to 7 million, not that much, but my mom is a teacher at Calexico High School, so those $3 million that you can say that could go into the students would make a bigger impact on the students than many people can imagine. Probably half the people here in Calexico High School don't even know what's going on about that pool. They just see it being demolished. But I believe that if actually parents were involved and saw what that amount of money being in there, they wouldn't approve of it, because they see that. I remember just walking around those streets, the hallways, and seeing things falling down from the ceilings, or not feeling safe in my own school. Like that amount of money that could be going into our classrooms would make a bigger difference than having a big hole in the campus. So as a community, of the community, I think a lot of people would not approve of this, and I think it should be stopped until something is actually formally written and so the community actually knows what's going into here, instead of just going along with it with nobody actually knowing. So,
thank you, Ms. Holloway. Mr. John Moreno?
John Moreno, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Calexico. I think a full disclosure with any agreements between the city, the school district, should come for a formal meeting with the school district and the city council, so that everything is now on the table. And who's going to pay for what? We've done it before. We've had joint meetings with the city council and the school board to discuss various joint venture projects like the Tesada Gym, or like the pool. So I think perhaps maybe within the next couple of weeks, a meeting with the school board and the city council with just one item on the agenda, which would be the Calexico swimming pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Okay, so we need to move forward on this item.
Ms. Vizcarra, I just wanted to clarify that that was the next step next week with the city, and then to present something to the city, to the Measure H, and then we were going to present it to the district. But all that is in working progress, because Raul is trying to catch up with all that. But that's where we were at in a joint meeting, disclosing everything and having everything in writing to move forward. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We're going to allow for one more comment from the public. Ms. Annette Butner.
Annette Butner, I just wanted to comment on this pool issue. Just to look at where our priorities are, I think, if we don't even know where the funding is going to come from for the pool, where is the need? I mean, yes, it would be great to have a pool for our kids to do PE and it gets hot here and relieve, get some relief from the weather. But our kids don't even have a place to eat, a proper cafeteria. Aren't we putting like the cart before the horse? I think we need to set, goals that we want to reach and set them I guess, realistically, that we can achieve them based on need. I think a better use of funds would be to offer our students at the high school level a proper place to sit down and have their meal. A lot of our children don't eat. And I know that because my kids go to high school. Every day I give them $3, $4, $5. Sometimes they use it and sometimes they do. Why? Because there's carts and it just takes too long for them to get their food. The hour, the 40, 50 minutes they get for lunch, it's not enough time. And you're trying to push a pull, and that's great. But to me, as a parent, I would oppose that right now because I see there's somewhere else. And I think a better way, a better use of those funds would be first to offer our kids good food, nutritious food, delicious food that they can enjoy housed in a cafeteria that they can actually sit in and eat. So I think you're getting ahead of yourself, and I think we really need to look realistically at what our needs are and put aside political goals, political ambitions. That's not the issue right now. The issue is our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
So I would like to bring back my motion. I would like to table this item until we have all 5 board members present, and we can actually discuss this item again with, like I said, with all 5 board members present.
We have a motion to table the item by Mr. Calderon. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Ortega. Any further discussion? We'll get a vote on tabling the item.
Aye.
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 No,
Motion carries 3-1.
I'm gonna be like Mr. Kim, only solely because we have an invoice to pay.
Item number 3, under Section J, revision to October 8th, 2013 resolution to sign orders.
Carolina Rodriguez is working at a class assistant superintendent of business services. Good evening, board members. I bring before you a resolution to sign orders, and as per the documents that were downloaded to the agenda item, the Director of Fiscal Advisory Services at ICOE has given us a direction to choose from 2 options, whether to adopt a resolution or to not adopt a resolution and go through a different process when processing our warrants and payments. And what I'm going to walk you through is option 1, what are the steps and the checks and balances of adopting the resolution, and then option 2, what would be the implications of not doing that. So, Mr. Munoz, could you please bring the delegation of authority resolution? Also, I revised the one that was uploaded because I wanted to touch on item number 4 of the second page. The reason the resolution is requested by ICOE is because they were given a legal advice to change it because the ed code that was on the previous resolution was incorrect. Instead of ed code 42632, it should be ed code 35161. And on the first page, you'll see that where they list the difference between those 2. This resolution will be used to pay the proper and legal billings, invoices, and orders submitted to the district without prior or subsequent approval by the governing board under the limitations of this resolution. I do want to clarify that what it means without prior or subsequent approval is just the payment of already pre-approved expenditures that were submitted to the board via consent agenda items, and also through board policy. And that is listed in the limitations. Number 1, if you were to approve the resolution today, it would say that it shall be consistent with the current adopted budget in the district. So payments that are not part of the adopted budget will not be processed. Number 2, the superintendent, and assistant superintendent of business services shall exercise great care and diligence with regard to each and every payment of any bill, billing, invoice, or order, and shall adhere to the established careful business practices. Number 3, it shall be consistent with all board policies in the district and all actions by the governing board. Again, this confirms that we will not pay any bill unless it was a pre-approved expenditure via consent agenda items. Number 4 is the one that I like to give you more detail on. Neighboring districts have set an unlimited amount of dollars when paying the bill. Again, this is just a operations process of paying expenditures that have been approved during budget adoption or via consent agenda items. The one I had uploaded was a $200,000 maximum. I have revised it to unlimited dollars. If the board feels that this is not what they want, I have a third option where I kept the $200,000 maximum with an exemption to other payments such as medical insurance, dental, vision, long-term disability, and life, voluntary deduction insurances, workers' compensation, certificate of participation payments, liability, and payroll taxes. Number 5, as a limitation, shall be that no payment shall be made under any contract or agreement unless such contract or agreement was authorized and entered into lawfully. That is key. We will always pay agreements that had gone through the bid process, that were approved by consent agenda items. And number 6, also the superintendent and/or business manager shall report to the governing board at its next regular meeting as an information item each and every payment and signing under this resolution. You would always see what was paid. This would be always an informational item for everyone to see. And number 7, the resolution shall not be in effect during any time when the district is operating without an approved budget, or during any time when the county superintendent has stay and rescind authority over the district's actions. The benefits of approving the resolution would be a decrease in use of the revolving account. As you have seen, our warrants are only processed during board meetings, and this has incurred some delays in a lot of our operations. We would also ensure that services continue, that there's no delay in insurances, or that we don't get penalized for late fees. Also, it would streamline the delivery of services to students. As you have seen, some of our sites have hard time getting the services to our students due to the current way we do warrants. Payments don't get to the vendors on time because we have to wait for board meetings. For the month of November, we only have one meeting, and for the month of December, we also have one meeting. The flaws and weaknesses of approving this resolution are covered by items 1 through 7. There's no weaknesses. Everything has a check and balance due to the limitations. I don't know if you have any questions.
I just wanted to add to our trustees that when Mrs. Rodriguez brought this forth, she asked, she stated that she needed to bring forth this resolution as recommended by the ICOE Fiscal Services Office. And so she asked me if I was comfortable with you being presented with an option of unlimited dollars. And I indicated to her that although I had no reservation in particular with the unlimited phrase, that I would be more comfortable presenting to the board one that did have a limit, just so that you would feel comfortable and have faith in the fact that we have nothing to hide, and that we are transparent, and that where there is a limitation of $200,000, for example, that you would feel comfortable that we're not going to go out and spend recklessly, so to speak, because everything A has the assurances of 1 through 7. It has to be a board-approved expenditure. It has to be in our approved budget. But that the only thing that would exceed that would be the mandatory expenses or investments, such as the medical, the dental, all the different types of insurances, our taxes, et cetera. But that to hopefully make you a little more comfortable in approving such a resolution. And just to dovetail a little bit backwards is a reminder that this came about, unfortunately, the pre-list only going, all of our expenditures being approved through a pre-list, our warrants being approved through the pre-list process came about, if I'm not mistaken, because of the oversight when the county had the complete oversight over our expenses in the last couple of years, and when the county superintendent had the stay and rescind power over us at the time. And this is one way of us being able to break away from that.
And Ms. Abris,
I think,
if I may add,
yes.
This was not, this measure to have it board approved was not because we were paying bills incorrectly. Let me clarify that. This was just to make sure that you as a board, owners of the budget, and I mean, the ones that need approve and deny expenditures were aware of the cash flow. That when this was happening, you knew how much cash was in our county. This was not because we were paying bills that were incorrect.
Well, I'm going to say that I do have a problem with the fact that it is unlimited, because anytime you see unlimited, it's not good. So, and number two, yes, we are here to make decisions on whether something gets paid or not. And then you mentioned, well, in lane number 5, it says, well, it has to be. It says no payment shall be made under any contract of agreement unless such contract yada 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 yada. Well, today you put us in front of us to pay for consulting services that had not been paid in 5 months. So you're asking us to say yes, you can pay, when in fact it wasn't done properly.
And
even whether it's your fault or it is their fault, you're asking us to pay or to grant you that decision when in fact today it wasn't done correctly. And I'm not saying it's your fault, or I'm not saying it's their fault, but I have a problem with that, because they said that they will bill us on a monthly basis, and now they billed us 5 months later. So how can I trust?
And that is something, excuse me for interrupting, Trustee Calderon, and that is something that I will be addressing with California Consulting, for example, and any of our firms, that if they're going to be requiring to be for monthly payments to be made, then they need to be submitting monthly invoices and not delayed invoices. And if there is going to be a system for somebody to present us with delayed billing, then that would be something that we would inform you of. But for example, I mean, unfortunately for us, California Consulting did submit their billing, 5 months later. So if they have an accounting issue in their own internally in their own organization, then we will contact them and ask them, we need your monthly bills. We can't afford to keep reporting to our trustees and to our community that we're asking bills to be paid later, and I fully understand that. However, we do have a contract with this firm, for example, this consultant firm, and we are responsible for paying the contract that we have with them. And so, having said that, and they are performing a service, they're working with us every single month, they have contact with us every single month, and so, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Montaño, I had her give me an accounting of all of the contacts that she has had with this particular firm in the period of time from September until now, and that is part of the conversation that I will be having with the leader of that company, and so, is it something that we are remiss in terms of not asking them to bill us every single month? Well, they should be billing us, but they're not, so I need to extend them that reminder. I want to pay you, and our trustees do not want to see delayed billing, but I do feel that, individual firms aside, this resolution will help us do business in a much more efficient manner throughout the month in terms of paying bills and being able to get the warrants paid and getting the services to the students, whether it's in terms of supplies or the teachers going to trainings, et cetera, just depending on what the warrant is for.
Well, I don't think we have ever, and I don't think I will ever question something that has to do with students getting their supplies or teacher trainings, because if they need the training or the kids need their supplies, well, that's it. They need to get them, and that's why we're here. Yes. Right? And if we didn't have schools, none of us will be here right now. So, but it's the other bills. It's like the consulting services you mentioned. Well, we have an obligation to pay. Well, in the contract, I mean, unless unless the contract is not drafted the way I think that it's drafted, and the contract it also says that they have to bill us monthly, and they didn't do it. So, are you talking about a breach of contract? Well, they didn't do it. So, I just don't. That's one of those problems. That's one of those problems that I want to avoid, and for us not to be able to decide whether yes or no we pay our bills. Well, I don't want to. I'm gonna retract that comment. For us not being able to decide on what is it, or at least see what is it that we need to pay.
But you would be seeing those lists,
Mr. Calderon, and let me go back to item number, I believe is number 5 on the resolution. All expenditures will be pre-approved by the board. I will not pay any bill that is not seen by the board beforehand. It is seen through the through the budget adoption process, and it's also done when we award RFPs. That was done for California Consulting. That was done on June 28th when you award RFP number 2013-008 in the amount of $48,000 for the year. We will not go over that amount at any time, and it will be consistent with our board policies.
This is also to a certain degree, it's symbolic, if I may, because it is a means by which ICOE is admitting, and I don't know if that's the correct word, but ICOE is admitting that Calexico Unified is in a much better financial situation than it was a year ago and a year and a half ago, because they wouldn't be recommending a resolution of this nature if they didn't believe that we could keep ourselves in the black, so to speak.
Yes, and to add to that, the resolution can be revised, amended in the future if you feel it's not working.
Is this being done throughout all the Imperial County districts?
Yes, and I do have a copy of the memo if you want me to.
Well, I see the memo here.
Oh, you have it in there?
Yeah, I see the memo here.
So as of November 1st, they will not process the warrants unless we choose either option 1 or 2. I've presented you with option 1. Option 2 would be not to adopt the resolution, but at every board meeting, we would have to submit a pre-list certification page. The pre-list is due to the county on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. on a weekly basis. Warrants are delivered by 10 a.m. on Thursdays of that week. In our case, if we were to go with option 2, for the month of November, we would not have our checks until November the 19th. So this pre-list is the last one. We will issue checks if you choose not to approve the resolution, and checks will not be issued until November 19th.
Checks to our vendors.
To everything. Nothing will be paid until November 19th.
Salaries as well?
No, salaries is a different.
That's what I'm saying, to our vendors and
to our
contracts
vendors,
and,
yes.
and things like that.
So the delay in operations will be great.
So let's say we approve this tonight, October 22nd. When will it go to ICOE?
This pre-list, we will get the warrants by Thursday because the memo says effective November 1st.
Okay, so it delays it by 1 week?
It will, well, for us, it will delay it 1 week after board meetings. If you choose option 2. If you choose option 1, we will go on a weekly basis. And you would get an informational item of all the weeks that we've paid so far on your November 12th board agenda.
Oh, I see.
And because it's a resolution that can be changed at any time, you could opt to try it on a provisional basis on option A, for example. And, after 2 or 3 months, you can see if it's working to the benefit of the district. And then if not, then you can go back to the option B, correct?
Option
and then
what is the dollar
do it the other
amount
way.
that we currently have right now?
On a pre-list basis, due to the fact that we do it on a bi-monthly, every 2 or 3 weeks, depending on board meetings, it's going above the 1 million figure. But if we were to go on a weekly basis, you should see sometime in the realm, and it all depends on operations through the months. Some months we have more staff development, other months we have other types of expenditures. So you would be talking about on a weekly basis, maybe $200,000 to $300,000, depending on the items included. And again, if you put the maximum of $200,000, any item above that figure would be brought for board approval.
Any contract.
So you will
Of course.
You will have the availability or the authority up to 200,000 to sign off, not to sign off, but to cut a check.
To pay the expense that has been pre-approved by the board. Yes.
On a single item.
On a single item, yes.
What is the maximum right now?
200,000 with the exemptions of workers' comp, medical, dental, and vision, and all of those.
Then why can we just go with option, what 4, but instead of leaving it, as you said, with unlimited dollars, why can't we just go with a figure like that, 250, 300?
Well, it's up to you. If you want me to revise it to 250, 300,
don't know.
that's your decision.
I don't like to see unlimited. That's just me.
It's not unlimited. It says
It says unlimited.
200,000.
What is the supplemental document?
No,
Is
in
that
there,
the one?
in this it says unlimited.
There's three formats. There's the one that says 200,000 only with no exemptions. There's the one that says unlimited, and the third one is 200,000 with the list of exemptions from the maximum amount figure.
Okay.
Well, we certainly don't want to be late on the health insurance or the work comp or anything like that.
It wasn't us. That wasn't us.
What is the supplemental document? Is that the one you say that if we have it, there's an optional resolution is available as part of the packet called Delegation of Authority to Enter in Written Contracts under specific.
That is another resolution, but that one is allowing what it says, delegating authority powers to the superintendent and to the assistant superintendent services to enter into contracts without prior board approval. And I didn't bring it before you because I didn't think that was something of your interest, but I can go ahead and put it in. for
That's
next.
not what we currently have right now, right?
No.
Any additional discussion? No? Now I'll call for the question. Need a motion to approve one of the 3 options that is presented on this item.
Well, I would like to make the motion to approve the one that's on the board over there, the one that with 200,000. With the list of exemptions, yes.
Is there a number associated with this one? We have a motion on the board by Mr. Calderon to approve.
Yeah.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Calderon to approve the resolution with the amount of the $200,000 with the exemptions, and we have a second by Ms. Duarte.
I have one more question. I'm not gonna change my motion or anything. Because of the letterhead that this has, is this a courier idea or is it a state
Oh,
idea?
the format of the resolution, you mean?
No, this issue.
That was brought forward to ICOE because somebody saw the previous resolution and noticed that the ed code was used incorrectly to delegate the authority to pay the bills. And so this was brought over to ICOE's attention. And so forth, since they have oversight over the districts, they asked us to implement corrective action by choosing one of the 2 options.
We have a motion by Mr. Calderon and a second by Ms. Duarte. Can we get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 4, notice of completion, VIX Air Conditioning LEAP Grant Program, Phase Number 2, bid number 2013-009, Mr. Martinez.
Yeah. Well, 200 is enough.
Good evening, Raul Martinez. Just the notice of completion is just a formality to close the project. VIX Air Conditioner took care of the replacement of 58 air conditioners throughout the district, and this was through the Learning Energy program that the IID has. Once this is submitted through the county, after that we can release the 5% retention, well, 30 days after the retention to VIX Air Conditioner. In addition, once this is also approved, I have my submittals to the IID for reimbursements for the LEAP program. So, again, it's just a formality.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any questions, any discussion by the board? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. Is there an approval for item number 4 under section J?
I move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Calderon. Is there a second? A second by Ms. Duarte. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Change it.
We move on to board members' closing comments. Mr. Ortega, do you have any comments tonight?
Yes.
They can't.
I know that several weeks ago, the Brawley School District received funding for their SRO officers program in the amount of $425,000 through the grant that's available through the Department of Justice. And I wanted to ask, where are we at with the SRO situation at our district?
Currently, our legal counsel is reviewing the contract, and that I will be presenting to the city manager regarding the SROs, and just to make sure that everything's, legal and where it should be, et cetera, and that it's appropriate. And it will stipulate all of the requirements and requests that our board members have expressed over the last few weeks. So it is being reviewed by our legal counsel.
Thank you. And over the weekend, I read an article in the San Diego Union on Sunday's edition in regards to the Escondido School District that have a $1 million judgment against them because 3 years ago, one of their elementary schools released one of their 9-year-old students at the request of the mother over the phone, who called and said, "Hey, could you release my daughter to my boyfriend because she's late to an appointment?" So they agreed, and they released her, only to find out later when the father arrived that the mother had been deported and that child had been taken to Mexico. So, of course, the father was very angry and sued the Escondido School District and won and got a $2.8 million judgment, which has prompted, neighboring districts to, look at their release and safety procedures in regards to, releasing students. So I thought it'd be good to bring it to the attention of everybody so that, I'm confident that would never happen here, but this is a small community and we all know each other and you just never know. And not because of the judgment. I mean, it's about the safety of the children and the dangers involved in this.
Absolutely, and it's actually a very interesting that you bring up such a comment. Recently, one of our elementary schools received an email regarding a parent stating that he was looking for his 2 children, and that his belief was that his 2 children were removed from another country illegally, and he wanted information about whether or not his children, he had reason to believe his children were enrolled in one of our schools, and that he wanted information regarding being able to locate his children, and if it was true that his children were enrolled in that school. Luckily, our site principal did not respond to him. She actually referred the case over to our assistant superintendent, Mrs. Armendariz. Both of them work closely together. It turns out that he is a non-custodial parent seeking information and displacing or placing the blame on the custodial parent, saying that she was the abductor. And so, needless to say, we do have very stringent policies on how to remove a student. I know that for a fact that our schools don't, or our attempt is to release no information whatsoever, not even as to how are my kids doing if they're not on the emergency list, if they're not on registered as on the parent contact. So, and it does take our staff to be very aware, and not just say, "Oh, well, yes, I know somebody and I'm just going to give that information." And so sometimes that does pose a challenge because we know each other. But it was just very proactive, for example, in this case, on the principal's part and the proactive approach that Mrs. Armendariz has. So I just,
Thank you.
as an aside.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Mr. Calderon, any board comments tonight?
Well, I just wanted to say I would like to start dialogue regarding what we're gonna do with our cafeteria at the high school and food services. Simply because we have to. I'm not a big fan of the carts outside. We don't know what those carts are selling. I mean, we can we can say what we think, we can say what we want, but at the end of the day, those cards are not part of our school district. Even if they have been checked out, even if they have passed all kinds of tests, they are not part of a school district. So I would like to start dialogue and see what we can do. Unfortunately, we already started with the swimming pool, and although I'm not in favor of how things are developing, like somebody said, the hole is already there. So I'm not gonna, I don't want to rebuild, semi-rebuild a swimming pool when we can move forward and finish it the way that we need to, the way that our kids deserve it. But at the same time, I think food services, we need to look at our food services, and we need to look at what the high school is doing, and if we can fix it, and if we can do something good about it, then we need to. And if it takes for our superintendent to go to other schools and see what they're doing, not to say that we're not doing a good job, but it would be a good idea, I think, to see what other schools are doing and how they do business. I know Central, they have two lunches. So I don't know, get ideas from other schools, but because our kids deserve to have a good lunch, they don't need to go outside and go to the carritos and buy their food over there when we can provide, and we have to provide by law free or reduced lunches to those students that deserve those services. Also, I would like to see or start a dialogue also on bringing or having the school district with a full comprehensive counseling program. It seems like we have done our job in bringing back all the teachers, and so far, all the teachers that we need to at this point, that all the teachers that they need to be hired and they need to be back, they're back. So also, but now see what we can do about the counseling program. So I know other districts. I know the district that I work for, it has a full comprehensive high school counseling program. So I would like to see what is it that we can do about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. Ms. Duarte? I don't have anything either. Thank you. That does it for board member comments. We have our announcement of convening into closed session.
The board will now go into closed session to discuss the items mentioned in Section M in the agenda. In terms of Section 5, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, I am obligated to indicate the facts and circumstances. The facts and circumstances involve generally payment of architectural fees already incurred. And then the board will return to act on the other items and announce any action taken in closed session.